Fantastic. Hey everyone, this is Chris Keysmore from Your Guitar. Today I'm joined by Steve Hill, Canadian, our neighbor to the north. Steve, how you doing?
I'm good.
Man,
It's nice talking to you, Chris.
Yeah, this is
good to be here.
Yeah, this is an absolute blast. I've encountered your music through one of those dark, deep YouTube black hole dives where you click on something gets recommended, and the next thing I know, I'm watching the guy play drums, guitar. He's got pickups that are stacked, and I'm like, I got to know more about this guy. So that's what brought me. Literally, then I reached out to you through your website, and here we are today.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I think the perfect place to start will be the guitar, because as we find out, you use a lot of old guitars, and right there, you can see it yourself, folks. Gold foil pickup. Go for it, man. Tell us about this.
This is a 59 Les Paul TV model. It's been modified a little bit, but not tremendously. And it can be brought back to its original condition. So there's no extra holes, no extra, first of all, you got the pickup here.
Yep.
That beautiful gold foil. It's used for the bass, because as you see, it's offset, so it only picks up the sound of the three bigger strings. And I have a stereo output on my guitar.
Okay.
And it goes through a splitter. So the bass signal goes through a POG Electro-Harmonics octaver. Sometimes I use a distortion pedal, or the amp is cranked louder. It depends. Right now I have an overdrive distortion pedal, because this, it's basically what I found today. But and I can't really crank it up as much as live today. So, but usually it's like and the amp is a 1966 B15 Ampeg.
Okay.
So. So that's basically the sound. So that also implies that you can't play like what you usually play with a guitar. You do like stuff like, but it's just mud with this. So you can't do any fifths on the bottom strings. So I had to completely rethink how I played. So it's got to be octaves on the bigger strings. You can't, because then it's just mud basically.
Now let's dive a little deeper into the evolution of this. Now, what prompted you to go to this length? And like you kind of alluded to before, there's no actual surgery in the guitar. It kind of slides under the strings, so there's no routing that extra pickup has. But what was it, something that you were like, I want to be a one-man band and this is how I need to get there? Or is it trial and error?
It's all accidents.
Okay.
I never wanted to be a one-man band. I never planned for that. But about like 10 years ago, I released an album and it just bombed. Nothing happened with it. There was no promotion. And I've always been a professional musician since the age of like 17, so I don't know how to do anything else. So I had to make a living, so, and I own a studio, so I figured, I'll just do some solo shows and I'll record a little solo album that I'll sell at these solo shows. And that little album is Solo Recordings Volume 1, and it's my best-selling album.
It's a great name.
It completely changed my career. It really helped me in many ways. And then I had to do Solo Recordings Volume 2 and Solo Recordings Volume 3. But on Volume 1, it's very simple. It's just basically I'm foot stomping.
Okay.
And I'd put a mic on the floor, and halfway through the record, I bought a bass drum. And then I bought a hi-hat. So you got hi-hat on like 4 songs. And and on the acoustic songs, sometimes I use this, which is a can with coins in it. And every acoustic song that I've recorded has this on my right foot, and it works better than anything else I've found. So basically, it started with just guitar and foot stomping or really basic stuff. But then I was touring, and before I did this solo thing, I sort of had a rock and roll band,
I've seen you play surf guitar, man, on a Telecaster.
I used to do that too. I've done many different things, but basically, if you're on a stage, you kind of want to rock out. And sometimes the audience really wants you to rock out, and you can't really do it with just acoustic guitar and, foot stomp. And so, eventually I thought about adding that because I wanted a bigger sound,
Mm-hmm.
And on volume 1, actually, I was using, check this out. This is the guitar. That's a 1956 225, ES-225.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why I started this solo thing. It was the fact that I was broke, but also a friend of mine who collects guitars came to my place with this guitar, and he told me, well, I didn't have any money to buy it, so he traded it to me for an acoustic show. He said, I'll organize a show, you do a solo show, and you'll have the guitar.
Wow.
And 3 weeks after that show, I released that album, and the album that bombed, so nothing happened. And then I was like, well, I had fun doing this acoustic show, so I'll do more of that. But it was really because of this guitar. And on volume 1, there's no extra pickups. It's just this guitar through a 68 Deluxe.
Okay.
But having that middle pickup there, that's the thing. A middle pickup, and it's a P90, so it's a huge sound. You get a lot more bottom.
Mm-hmm.
These are very fat sounding guitars. But I love my 59 Junior, so I wanted to use the Junior, and I couldn't get that fat sound, So then I thought about adding that pickup. And at first, what I used to do is take these, you remember these 60s acoustic pickups, where you had a little cable and you had a volume.
Yep.
Well, that's what like D. Armand's or stuff like that. So I just gaffer tape these pickups on the 225, which is why you can see,
Oh, yeah.
It's been damaged by that. But it worked for a while. And then eventually I got some friends of mine to do it in a more professional manner, and I really wanted to play my 59, So by having this extra pickup, I had the fat sound, and the next logical step was, like sometimes, I felt, I had by then I had the hi-hat, I had the bass drum, and I had a snare, but I felt like, it'd be nice to have a hi-hat or just like a cymbal that I could crash on,
Yeah.
How could I do that? And then I thought about the drumstick holder, which is it's under the there's no extra holes there either. It's just you take the machine heads off, and it's there, and then you put the machine heads back on, and you just put the screws in, and it just stays there.
Okay.
And you got this little thing there.
Oh, all right.
So you just put the drumstick there, and after the drumstick, I went for the maraca. So it's all there on the guitar.
Now, what's the learning curve for you on doing all this with the feet? You're obviously playing guitar.
Yeah.
And then with the drum setup now, how much has that kind of altered your playing style? And how much time did it take to get kind of up to full flight here?
It took a long time, but I was doing like 125 shows a year. So a lot of learning was happening on stage, and whenever I wasn't touring, I was in the studio recording the next record. And I'm on all of these records that I did as a one-man band, it's all recorded live. I didn't allow myself to do any overdubs.
Okay, so that was one question I was going to ask, is that you record like you perform. So it's not like something you're figuring out after the fact.
I did that on solo recordings, volume 1, 2, and 3, and then there's a live album called the One Man Blues Rock Band, so it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and my last album is called Desert Trip. A lot of it is recorded live, but it's mostly acoustic.
Okay.
And but I've allowed myself to do overdubs on this one, so I play pedal steel and I do back vocals and all that, but not for the previous 4 records. It had to be live, So it took a lot of rehearsing. Like on, for example, solo recordings volume 3, I did twice. I did the whole album in my basement, in my studio. Then I went on tour across Canada. played the songs live, came back to Montreal, and recorded the whole album in 5 days in the studio.
Wow.
Yeah, but just to be able to perform the songs live, it took a long time. It took me, some of these songs took me about a year to be able to get a decent take,
Well, I'm curious
So-
because you have your own tours, you headline your own shows, but I know that you've opened for a lot of big bands. Do you see in the audience when you come out and they have the setup with the drum kit and the amps, are people's like mouths open and their eyes are bugged out seeing just one guy do all this?
Yeah, sometimes it happens, or they're horrified by it. I get everything. But a lot of people, tell me that they've never seen it before, and I don't follow one-man bands around. I know of a few, but the cool thing about one-man bands is that everybody does it their own way.
It's true.
Nobody does it the same way. You sort of have to invent something, if you do that. And it changed my play, and I had to simplify a lot of the stuff that I did, and just, I was already playing with my fingers. I've been playing finger picking for, 30 years, but just to be, to keep the rhythm going, have the bass going, and do lead guitar on top of that while you play drums. You can't do the same things, you're a bit, it's limiting.
Yes.
You're limited in what you can do. Usually I love to use the open string, so I'll play in, well, it would be E, but I tune a whole step down, so it's D. So I do a lot of songs in D, and I use open tunings, a lot of open tunings. And I do bass lines like if I'm in B. That's all basically open strings or the thumb. So if I got my thumb there, I can keep that going. And I can't really play on the three big strings when I'm playing lead because I get the octave. So I'll do a few notes there, but I try to stay away from that, So, but at the same time, it's limiting, but it seems like I found my style and my calling by doing that,
You've definitely found your lane.
Well, yeah, and I think it's a good thing to like you take a guy like Jimmy Vaughn. Jimmy Vaughn could he could probably play a lot of licks that you don't know that he could play, but he always plays like the Jimmy Vaughn licks. Mm-hmm. And it always sounds like Jimmy Vaughn. Sometimes, well, you can still hear the influence. You can hear B.B. King in Jimmy Vaughn, but if you know about Jimmy Vaughn, whenever you hear him, it's him.
Yeah.
And the same thing with B.B. King. If you listen to his earlier recordings, there's a lot of T-Bone Walker in there, a lot of jazzier lines, but as he ages, he plays less and less of these licks, but everything that he plays is B.B. King. And I've always been fascinated by that, by players like that, like Albert Collins. Albert Collins basically he only played Albert Collins licks. Mm-hmm. And there's not like 50 Albert Collins licks. There's not that many. Same thing with Albert King, or Muddy Waters. All these blues guys, they had their own licks, and you hear one lick and it's that guy. So I've always been impressed by that, and as a one-man band, it sort of forced me to do that, I guess, just because you can't play rhythm and do,
Yeah.
That's impossible. So.
Now, to kind of talk a little bit more about the pickup, was it the sound of the gold foil, or is it the fact that it could fit between the strings?
Yes, the
and
fact
the
that
guitar?
it could fit. It just happens that it's one of the best sounding pickups ever made, but it fits under the strings.
And now you've had
That's
a
all.
few of them kind of outfitted on various guitars. Other juniors. I've seen Firebirds and stuff. So do you always go after that same gold foil, or is it kind of just the era specific gold foils?
Well, it's these. These are the best sounding ones. Or, I get whatever I can. They're getting harder to find and they're more and more expensive. But I've tried a bunch of them, and these just seem to work.
And those are
the
like
best
Teisco?
for what I do.
Which one are these specific?
Yeah, a
Teiscos?
friend of mine, Ray Lemley. He lives out in Alberta, and he gave me one of those Teiscos with 4 pickups.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. But I got about 10 guitars like that. I got a few in Europe, so when I play over there, I don't have to bring too many guitars. I got a few backups there, and I've had a bunch of different juniors, but I ended up selling them because none of them had the twang that this one has. A lot of the juniors sound pretty dark, but this one still has some twang to it, and I could never find another one to replace it because I wanted to keep this one just for the studio.
Mm-hmm.
The neck's been broken like 5 times.
Well, that's what I was going to ask about with Gibson. One of their Achilles heels in the design is that often the Les Pauls and the SGs have headstock breaks. Now, with you drumming, that has to increase the likelihood of it.
That never happened while playing the drums.
Really?
It was always like, somebody dropping the guitar or... Well, it happened once in Scotland. The last punch of the show. I finished the song and then I went back to give another punch, and I didn't realize it. I just put the guitar there, and then my guitar tech came to the dressing room after the show, and he was like, "You broke your guitar, dude." But it was the exact same cracks as the first time that it had been broken.
Okay.
So the job hadn't been really well done. Now I got this fantastic guy called Daniel Vigneault who works on my guitars now, and it's fine now. But if I could have another one exactly the same, I'd keep this one at home, that's for sure.
Okay. Now, before we move on to another electric, what should we know about strings and gauges? I know that you have kind of covered tunings, but what kind of strings do you use?
On these, I use D'Addario 11 to 56.
Okay.
Because it's tuned a whole step down, so it doesn't have that much tension. I used to play with 1156 strings on Telecasters in standard tuning. I wouldn't do that anymore. I broke my hand 15 years ago, and I don't have the strength that I used to have. And there's a lot of things going on here, so I don't want to be struggling with that, So these work really well. I love Fender guitars too, and on my last record, it's mostly acoustic, but there's also electric guitar, and it's Fender guitars. I got this one here that's become my favorite guitar in the past year. It's a 62 Jazzmaster.
Oh, wow.
I've put the pickup there too. Actually, I just changed the pick guard, so I still have the original pick guard. But that's a great guitar too. So it's got the bass pickup also.
Now with this one having a 2 pickup kind of configuration, how do you typically use it? Are you using the bridge with the bass pickup, or are you kind of going between both, or you use both pickups and the bass pickup?
I usually play guitars with only one pickup, and when I have 2, the Jazzmaster probably has the best sound of 2 pickups together you can have. That's what, and I've got Strats, I got Tellys, I got Les Pauls, but there's really, these are amazing guitars that I didn't like before because, I play with my fingers, so the strings would always pop out, But if you put a mastery bridge in them, they just, I don't think I've played a better guitar than this. Seriously.
Wow.
It's got twang.
Now, because you have said that you use your fingers almost exclusively from what I've seen a lot of your performances as a one-man band kind of guy, what do you think that's improved not only in your playing but like your tone, like to be able to express yourself with just your fingers?
Well, there's something more. I find it's a more personal sound with the fingers. You know, I used to play with a pick. On my first couple of records, I'd play with the pick and sometimes the fingers, and I'd switch. You know, I'd have like 15 picks on my guitar stand. And I'd do the rhythm with the fingers, get into the solo smoothly with the fingers, and then when it would get intense, you know, I'd grab a pick. And back in 2003, I remember that gig. I had been, it was probably the month of April, and I had spent the whole winter time, you know, just playing slide guitar on a small acoustic. And whenever I play slide, I find it better if you play with your fingers if you play slide, because you gotta mute all these strings. You know. Let me show you an example. See, if I don't mute the strings, you can hear all that crap. So I always play like that. I always mute every string that I'm not playing. So I spent I've been playing slide guitar since I was 15, but back in 2003, I was playing open D like 6 or 7 hours a day for about 3 months. And then when I got to a gig, and so I got to this gig, and at one point, you know, like I'm in a solo, and it's getting kind of intense, so I grab a pick, and I didn't have as much power or control, or, you know, and it didn't sound as good to me, you know, so I just threw it on the floor, and I never looked back, and, you know, I never played with a pick again.
Now, do you ever use your thumb as a pick? Because there's like players, like I know Jared James Nichols, he'll use his thumb as a pick without using like the claw or like a hybrid picking type of thing where you're using, you know, multiple fingers.
No, I always go like,
Gotcha.
if I have to go fast, I might use 3 fingers, or go like, but not really, because I have to. In the past 10 years, the thumb has been busy doing the rhythm.
Yeah, bass lines.
So that's it. No.
Now, what is this guitar? You kind of introduced it via the slide technique. So what actual acoustic are we looking at here?
That's a Collings.
Okay.
I have 2. This one is usually set up for slide in open G, but I use a special open G that it has the C on the bottom string. So I get the 1, 4, 5 with open strings, you know. That's the cool thing about this.
Now, was that an accident, or is that something you knew?
If I need to go to the 5. I love these guitars. My favorite one is the other one, which is smaller. It's a parlor guitar. Plug it in. I've had many acoustic guitars, but this is just perfection. I don't get tired of it. It's kind of becoming my favorite guitar, even more than the electrics, you know. I've been playing a lot of acoustic guitar in the past couple of years, and it's all because of this one. And when I play acoustic, I don't use a piezo. You know, it's a sound hole pickup. Mm-hmm. It's a Fishman Rare Earth, and it's plugged into a 1964 Fender Super Reverb.
Oh wow!
Straight into that.
come on, Steve, leave some notes for the rest of us. Now, I know that I know that's a smaller body guitar, but even I'm sure the super reverb's helping, but there's a lot of thump on those higher strings, thicker strings.
I mean, this guitar is it's so well made. It's, every note sounds good. You can play slide on it. You can play anything on it. It's good for lead. It's good for rhythm. And the thing is, when you use these sound hole pickups, if you use the bigger guitars, they'll feed back. You don't have the problem. You don't have that problem with this one, and it sounds great with a mic also.
Now, when you tour, are you kind of touring? Will you do like an acoustic? Will you blend the sets? Will you have an acoustic and electric kind of performances within one set, or will you kind of bill a tour like, I'm going to do acoustic tour and then that's it?
Lately, I start acoustic and I tell the people that the opening act didn't show up, so they get the two shows for one, and they always believe me.
Get two Steves for the price of one.
Yeah, and I don't know. They believe it. They believe that there's an opening act that didn't show up.
Well, I think that's because you do a lot of touring in Canada, and Canadians are known for their hospitality and kindness. So I think that you just have kind audiences.
That's probably the case.
Well, what other guitars should we talk about, Steve? I know that you're a collector of sorts. So what should we learn about next?
This one I use for slide. I've used it a lot in the last 10 years. It's light. That's a major factor also in what I do. A guitar might sound good, it might be awesome, but if it's heavy, I'm not going to use it. Because I need to play the hi-hat and the cymbal, and if the guitar's heavy, it gets hard after a while. So this one that's another one, that's another very simple guitar, 1964 SG Junior. I've had a lot of SG Juniors. I've had a 61, 62, 63, 65, 66. I love these guitars, but I couldn't afford them all,
Yeah.
I had to sell them at some point. But I've always kept this one. It's not the original paint. The neck's been broken, and but it's a great sounding little guitar, and I didn't pay too much for it, so I don't mind bringing it on tour.
Now, would that be the one that you would use either recording or live for the Ballad of Johnny Wabo?
That would be the 225 ES-225. Let me plug it in. Well, lately I've been using this one for the Ballad of Johnny Wabo because I don't want to bring 10 guitars.
Yeah. Yeah, we had talked about the.
I don't have a guitar tech anymore, so I got to do this on my own.
Add another job to your list there, Steve. Yeah, we had talked about the ES, but let's hear it now. Let's hear what this bad boy has to say.
So far, we've been hearing the guitar going through two boosters and then the amps. But for this guitar, I don't need the boosters. I take them out because it's got a lot of output. So it's a pretty big sound, and it's fun to play. This guitar has changed a lot of things for me, and they're probably the best thing you can buy out there if you want like a 50s Gibson on a budget. You can still find them for around 2,500, something like that.
Now, because it's a hollow body and you play with such volume, is that ever been an issue for feeding back, or do you just ride the wave?
Yes, I've mentioned the gaffer tape before for the pickup, but we used more gaffer tape. At some point, we gaffer taped the the F holes.
Oh.
So you can still see that. I don't use it live these days because of these problems. But in the studio, it's a total monster. And the best guitar I've ever owned for slide. And it cleans up really well too. If you put the volume really down. So it's got only one pickup, but you can get so many sounds with it.
Man, that sounds great. Like you said, it's very dynamic.
Yeah.
Now, I'll have you grab the 59 TV Yellow again, and you can talk to us about the amps that we've been hearing, because I know you're a big fan of old tweeds. I know you're a big Fender guy. And then we can dive into your pedal board and kind of, you can tell us about what's going on there.
Okay, so the setup with the electric is a bit more complicated than the acoustic setup. So we talked about the pickup. We've talked about the stereo cable. The stereo cable goes through this box that I got built, and it splits the signal between the bass signal and the guitar signal. We've talked about the bass signal. So the guitar signal goes through a clon, and then I have an EP booster. And the way I set up the clon and the EP booster is really as a clean boost. It's got the level of gain is at 0.
Oh, okay.
You know? And on the clon, I just give it a bit more output. So it's a clean boost, you know. It's more input come into the amp, and it makes the amp distort more. That's all it is. But the amps aren't clean either, you know. And then live, I go through El Capitan Strymon Echo, and then a true spring reverb, which is made by Source Audio.
Okay.
And then it's a Polytune TC electronic tuner. In the studio, I don't use the pedals, the echo and the spring. What I use is a full tone tube tape echo, and that's been on all of my recordings for a long time. And I use a Fender. I got a '64 Fender reverb unit. I bought that unit 25 years ago, and I've used it on every record I've ever done. So that's really a key to my sound, you know. And I split the signal between 2 amps. Sometimes, usually what I do is I'll have 1 amp with the reverb, and the other amp will have the slapback echo coming from the tube tone tape echo, and it's got a splitter on it. It goes to 2 different amps, you know. That's on the full tone.
Now the full tone, Steve, those kind of have like that built-in like an echoplex? Like Brian Setzer uses that almost as a boost just as much as he uses that. So how do you compensate for that third boost in the studio when you're only having the 2 boosters live?
I crank up the volume.
My guy.
It works every time.
All right. So what else do we got pedal-wise in terms of like how it hits the amps?
That's basically it. You know, it's just the clon, the EP booster, then the full tone tape echo, and then you got right now it's a 1950 Fender Deluxe. It could be a 48 or a 50. A friend of mine had 2. He had a 48 and a 50. He sold me one. I don't know which one it is, but it's really old. It sounds great. Sometimes I'll use a Champ. And my main amp in the studio, the one that's always on for the past couple of years, it's been it's a 1956 Vibro Lux, and it sounds just fantastic. You know, I love the Tweed amps.
Now, do you tour with them?
Sometimes I do. I got a 56 Pro that was a little beat up when I bought it, but now it looks like crap. I've toured with it a lot. You know, I don't use it a lot these days, but I've toured with it. You know, It depends, I wouldn't, travel across the country with these little small amps. Some of them I've had for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
But if I want that sound, if I want that sound and I got a gig that's not too far, I'll use them. They're very reliable. That's the thing about them. Most people think, that these old amps are very fragile, but usually they last. I don't have as much problem with these amps as I've had with newer amps.
They were built to last.
It seems like new amps. Whenever I'd be on tour with new amps, I've had problems. And some of these old Fenders, like they can go like for years and years and years without any problem.
Well, there's a reason why they've lasted this long.
They were really well made.
Yeah, there's a reason why they've lasted this long. They're 70-year-old amps that you're using.
Point-to-point circuitry, and they're very simple. There's not that many things, and it's like they got like 2 or 3 tubes and a few transformers, and so there's not that many things that can break.
Now,
and
are you using the pedals? Are they always on? The EP booster and the Klon, are they always on, or is it kind of like a feel thing when you want to really bring it to another level?
Well, usually they're on, except if I grab a guitar that has more output,
Okay.
Like the ES-225, or sometimes I would probably just leave them on and turn down the volume on the guitar. That's what I've been, because like. I can't, and my pedal board is on a road case, and I have to switch with my hand, because my feet are pretty busy playing drums, So I've developed this thing where usually the pedals are on at all time.
Got it.
And I just play with my volume control a lot.
Do you want to demonstrate that? Kind of like, people can hear like the different kind of levels of tonality you got?
See, that's a Gibson, but that's a very Fender sound. So I had the volume at 4, Now this is at 7. 8. 10. It's all there.
And a lot of it probably is the way you're attacking the strings too is probably a lot of that too, the way you're hitting them.
Well, what I just did there, it's really a difference in just the volume. But like if I play with a cleaner sound, I won't play the same way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But it's just like I don't think about it,
Now, it makes me wonder because, and if this happens, Steve, I want to get credit in the next album liner notes. Do you think you could ever do like a B-bender on the guitar while strumming and playing drums?
Well, I have to say I never thought about it, but it sounds pretty interesting.
Well, Steve, I don't know exactly how things are going in Canada right now, but are you able to play shows? Is there anything coming up? How should people be checking out, and where should people learn about you?
I've been doing shows, but I've been doing Facebook Live concerts.
Okay.
I've done a lot of those in the last year, so I think you can still find them on my Facebook page.
Okay.
I have a website called stevehillmusic.com. I'm on Instagram.
You're easy to find.
Not on Tinder anymore, but pretty much everywhere else. So I'm easy to find.
Well, Steve, I really appreciate you going through all this trouble? I know that you're in your studio, but you got this all set up, man.
It was a lot of fun, Chris.
Well,
thanks for asking me.
Yeah, man, I really
enjoyed it.
appreciate you, man. It was a lot of fun, and you're one of those persons, like, the minute I saw what was going on stage in the video, I was like, this guy is perfect for a rig rundown, and you're a great musician to boot, so it made a perfect fit. I'll ask
Chris.
one last thing for you, Steve. Could you play us out, kind of like a one-man band, kind of play us out?
Yep.
All right, everyone, this is Chris Keith, Premier Guitar with Steve Hill from Canada. Rock out, Steve.